haven't posted any videos or anything recently as far as the 53 Chevy update or anything goes on that car. I drove it last summer, made it to the last car show. I think the radiator was probably too small on it. It started to get warm on me. It's hard to tell for certain if the motor was actually getting warm because the gauge clusters on these cars just disintegrate and fall apart. The needles are never accurate. They never work the way they're supposed to. But I did park the car, and apparently when my buddy went to move it, it didn't crank when he turned the keys. They had to push it in the barn with the tractor. Winter time hit, of course. It always hits super hard down here in the Midwest. I didn't end up doing anything with the car over the winter. Car show season's rolling up. Of course, I wanted to run out and try and, run like a chicken with my head cut off because I procrastinated all winter and stayed warm. Like an idiot, I stayed warm. But I ended up doing some research, and it did seem like my starter had finally went out. And so I ended up replacing the starter, which was an absolute bear of a job. I don't know if anybody out there has done one of these starters on an Ls400, but I can tell you it is as bad as they say it is. And it is very tedious, and it had me rethinking my life decisions up to this point. So if that tells you anything, it was definitely not a fun job to do. I ended up doing all of that. EGR deleted the intake manifold myself, just trying to get rid of 90% of all of the hoses and, wiring and stuff like that, because a lot of stuff just disintegrated when I took it apart. I ended up putting the intake back on, hit the key, and of course, it still did nothing. And so I did all kinds of research on forums. You'll see my posts out there if you're on any of those Lexus forums trying to find help. Of course, it's hard to find anybody to give you a straight answer, or honestly, to know what people's actually got going on with their projects. But I talked to a technician that works for Lexus, and the first thing he said is, what is the condition of your loom look like? And I can honestly tell you that if I show you everything as far as this loom on my car, you would be like, yeah, well, there's your problem. Well, that was not my problem. The problem was the starter was totally grenaded. I took it apart just to make sure. It literally fell apart. When I took it apart, it was full of like brake dust. It looked terrible. So that was part of the problem. With that being said, the starter went out and it burned up the fusible link. So that explains that problem there. But I still had no crank. I still don't know if I have fire yet, because that's a whole nother issue. But I can say finally, what I figured out was the fusible link on the side of the J-case fuse box here. Here, I'll go ahead and show you what's going on. So this is the current state of the car. Of course, it is in rough shape. I'm a total idiot and never really made a hood latch for this hood assembly. And when I shut it and went to the last car show, the hood took off like an airplane and hit my roof. Of course, thank God I didn't have a brand new windshield in there. I just had the stupid Lexan windshield. But it pounded my hood pretty good. I'm running these 18 plus 40 offset wheels on here for now. There's these old coil springs I did with some eBay springs. That was a terrible idea. Don't do that. Get coilovers or run the stock shocks. I just took all of that back apart, put the new struts back in. So those were like $80 on Amazon. Amazon's awesome for that stuff. But what I ended up figuring out with my car is on the side of my fuse box, there's the old beautiful Ls400 engine. There's one of the EGR block-off plates that I got hooked up. And then the other one goes back there. And I put the EGR pipe back in and just ran a plate in between it. Of course, I can't find the right length bolt, so that's just going to have to work for now. But I've got a lot bigger issues than bolts being too long. Anyways, this right here, these J cases, what's crazy is that if you check each and every single one of these, none of them are blown. But when you tear all of the loom covering and everything off, you find that there was a little yellow fusible link right here, little wire with some really soft rubber insulation on it. When it gets hot, it just falls apart. And that was the case. So that fell apart. I had my relay right here. I tried jumping the relay, the whole 9 yards, still couldn't get anything. All 4 pinouts were dead. Obviously this one is the negative earth ground for the door lock theft unit, whatever. This one over here is constant hot. I believe this one over here is switched from the key hot, and then I think this one is the solenoid, or this is the solenoid. I'm not 100% certain on that one, but here is the diagram for anybody that needs one if they have this issue going on for a no start condition on their Ls400. It might be upside down. There you go. Maybe that will help you. But anyways, so first thing you want to check your fusible link right here. Don't check these J cases. They will lie straight to your face. Check this fusible link. It could be melted. In my case, it was. Your relay, obviously, you could try and switch. These two are totally different, but you can switch this one with like the fuel pump relay or something. My issue, I think 90% of it, was actually underneath my dash in your fuse panel. Of course, I didn't have my flash on, but anyways, see what the underside of this beautiful car looks like? See how rusty everything is? Boy, it's a real good shape. I paid $150 for this running gear, and so far it works, whatever. But this, oh man, I hate getting under these things. Right here is your turn signal flasher, for anybody wondering. I have an LED turn signal flasher in here, so that for my LED turn signals and stuff. But this little fuse box actually sits up beside the factory fuse box, but the 7.5, which of course I don't have the 7.5 in right now, I will put one back in it, but both sides of that fuse were dead, and I believe it's supposed to be dead, but if you put your test light in one of those prongs with the fuse out, right here where that 20 is sitting in there, the 15 is the traction control, but the 20 is the start fuse, and if you put your test light in there, I think it will read dead until you turn the key. Well, I was turning my key, and this side, it wasn't even lighting up at all, and neither side was lighting. I checked the fuse, obviously it wasn't blown, so then the nightmare of ensuing, where is it blown? Or is there a mouse or something that chewed through a wire? Well, in these little circuit breakers, I think it was this circuit breaker or this one, but if you turn the key completely off and you take a small Allen wrench and you push it into these holes very gently and you hear a snap sound, then the circuit breaker has reset. I reset my circuit breaker, and then I literally checked it immediately after, and I had hot in, but I did not have hot out. Checked the fuse was fine, which doesn't make sense. It was bad connection. So I took my test light and scraped the little spade in and out a whole bunch and pushed it in and went back out here under the hood. And I could actually stick my terminal or my spade for my test light down in there and turn the key and see it actually lighting up like it was supposed to. And sure enough, now I have a crank condition with the key. I don't think I had the EFI set up or the igniters weren't firing or anything because of that circuit breaker. So I don't have a good battery right now. Once I get a good one in here, we'll see if I have a running car after that. But I'm very excited that I actually figured out what was going on. So anybody that's needing help or trying to figure this out, leave a comment or ask a question or whatever. I've read all kinds of forums, and this should offer some very, very insightful knowledge for anybody having this kind of an issue.